All right, let's try this again, shall we? Maybe with some audio. Oh man, just I'm always using different equipment, and sometimes I'm in different places, and I don't switch certain settings back and forth. So let me double check to make sure. There we go. We have sound. Okay, good. Yeah, so I actually was on a Zoom conference call with a bunch of Believe guys on what day was that? Thursday, and I did it from the lactation room in the children's hospital. So we were there visiting my daughter. I just explained this with no sound previously, but my daughter had heart surgery on Wednesday. Obviously, that was a little scary. She was only 10 days old. But the operation went great. She's in recovery. She's doing really, really well so far. She's a fighter, super strong. So me and my wife have been at the hospital literally every single day. But anyway, so on Thursday, we were there, and we were doing like a round table with the Believe guys. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll do it live on my end. But I didn't have my full like studio setup, so I had to change the voice settings. So anyway, I forgot to change it back to my soundboard, putting in the audio. So we're good now. We have audio. So if you jumped in earlier and left and you came back, thank you so much. If you're not back, sorry. I apologize. Technical difficulty, but we're going to try this again. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into the show now. And yeah, ready to talk some Los Angeles football. So thanks for joining with me, and let's just get right to it, shall we? Let me get the record going here.
Believe, an LA football podcast.
Touchdown Rams! Touchdown UCLA! Recovered by the Chargers. The Trojans back in front. Touchdown Wildcats!
With your host, Ryan Dyrud, on the Believe Podcast Network and LAFBnetwork.com. This is your destination for Los Angeles football.
What's up, LA football fans, and welcome to the LA Football Podcast here on the Believe Podcast Network, also on LAFBnetwork.com, your destination for all your favorite Los Angeles football teams. And we may have lost one for good, but we'll get to that in a second. Hope everyone's doing good. Happy Friday. I am all behind a little bit. I know everyone's kind of turned around on days during this whole quarantine. It's like, what day of the week is it? Who cares? Like, I'm not going anywhere. But I'm behind. I was mentioning before I hit record, so if you were listening live, you already heard this. If you're not listening live, you're just listening to the taped podcast. I've been in the hospital all week. As I mentioned on my last episode, my daughter was born last week. Thanks to everyone that gave a shout out for that. Me and my wife are ecstatic. Beautiful baby girl, born a month early, 3 pounds 3 ounces. I've mentioned too throughout the show multiple times that she has a heart defect that needs surgery, and she had her first surgery on Wednesday, just 2 days ago. So obviously that kind of set me behind on stuff like this, which I love doing this, love all you guys, but a little less important than my daughter's heart surgery. But she is recovering really, really well. She's so strong a fighter. All the nurses have nicknamed her Feisty Mama because she's super feisty, and she's always moving her limbs all over and stuff. So she's doing good. So we just got back from the hospital today, and we'll be back there. My wife will go tomorrow during the day. I will be there tomorrow evening. So, but yeah, thanks for all the thoughts and prayers. Got a lot of you hitting me up on Twitter and Instagram and stuff, so it means the world to me and my wife, and we feel so blessed and fortunate by all the support we've received. But anyway, long way of saying that's why I'm a little behind, usually recording, put these out on Thursday. So sorry, today's Friday evening already, 8 o'clock. Where's the day gone? Where's the day gone? But hope all of you are doing well. Hope you're all enjoying this quarantine as best you can. I know it's so weird, and there's stress out there, and a lot of unknowns with jobs and finances and health, obviously, and stuff like that. But keep positive. What can you do? Enjoy this time, spending time at home with the loved ones that you do live with. If you live alone, well, luckily technology. We're hanging out right now. If you're watching this live, everyone's doing crazy Zoom stuff. I mean, the Zoom stocks have to be out of control right now. With how bad business is for everyone else, Zoom has to be absolutely crushing the stock market. Has to be. I heard someone, it was a buddy, he was joking, not serious, but the CEO, I guess, of Zoom is from China. And he's like, oh, I bet that guy, like, started this whole thing just so his stock would rise. That's obviously a joke. But yeah, Zoom's done great things, and obviously we use it all the time, even for this show. Yeah, so okay, got a great show for you guys today. We are going to talk about the XFL. Unfortunately, big news dropping about the inaugural season, and perhaps that might be it. So we'll get to that in a minute. The Rams making news again. Brandon Cooks traded to guess who? If you haven't heard, I'm sure you can guess. And then we're going to get into our mock draft portion of the show. We're going round by round. If you've been listening, paying attention, we are on round 3. So we will be talking about the third round options for the Rams and the third round options for the Chargers. We'll get into that towards the end of the show. But first, I do want to talk about the XFL. And actually, before I get to that, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. I want to let everyone know we are doing a live watch party tomorrow, Saturday. I've been trying to promote it all week. A way for us LA football fans to hang out remotely, communicate, go back and forth. So we're doing a live remote watch party. I know it's kind of a different, we're not all hanging out in the same area, but it's a way to communicate, I think. So right now, NFL Game Pass, if you don't know, is offering free subscriptions through July 31st. So you can jump on there, credit account. You don't even have to put a credit card down. You literally just give an email and a password, and boom, your account's ready. So we're going to watch tomorrow at 10 a.m., so 10 a.m. Pacific time kickoff. We're going to watch the 2018 Week 15 Chargers at Chiefs game. Instant classic. If you are a Chargers fan, you should know exactly what I'm talking about, that finish with the 2-point conversion. That's all I'm going to talk about because we're going to watch it live tomorrow, 10 a.m. So basically just jump on Game Pass at 10 a.m. Right at 10, we're all going to hit play. It's kind of the easiest way to do it with all the copyright and stuff like that. I don't really want to stream it because, that can get tricky. And then we're just going to talk. We're going to, talk on Twitter, talk on Instagram. We have 2 Discord channels. If you go to LAFBnetwork.com and there's I'll put the link in this episode as well, but there's a article in there with all the information about our Discord channels, links to where you can find the games at and stuff like that. So that'll be 10 a.m. Chargers at Chiefs from 2018, and then at 1:05 kickoff, we're trying to do what the actual NFL kickoffs do. We're going to do the Rams NFC Championship game against the Saints. Obviously, arguably the best game in the last decade was Rams-Chiefs Monday Night Football, but that game aired on ESPN like 2 weeks ago, so we're going to do something different, do the NFC game with that controversial finish. Not if you're a Rams fan. You don't care either way. So we'll watch that one. That has an awesome second half. Obviously goes to overtime and puts the Rams in the Super Bowl. So we'll watch that one at 1:05. Same thing. Right at 1:05, jump on Game Pass, push play. There is a Discord for just the Rams. All the information is on LAFBnetwork.com. I'll put it in this episode. I'll tweet it out all night as well because we want to get a good group. If we can have, a couple hundred people, even if we have 10 people, that's awesome. We can just hang out, talk football for a few hours. Escape all this madness. So make sure to find me on Twitter, Ryan Dyrud, LAFB. I'm on Instagram, Ryan Dyrud. I'm on Facebook. You can email me if you prefer, podcast at LAFBnetwork.com. Make sure to subscribe to this show that you're watching right now. If you're watching on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, we're everywhere you listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify. Just search LA Football. You can search Believe in LA Football if you want to do the whole thing, but hit that subscribe so you're notified whenever a new show drops. But I appreciate you all very, very much. Enough with the introduction. I feel like my intros are always longer than they should be. There's always so much to say, so much just to chat about, So, anyway, let's get into it. XFL announced this morning via a Zoom conference call, speaking of which, that they are suspending indefinitely all operations, all day-to-day operations. Obviously, they suspended the league a while ago, back on March 12th, I believe. And then I heard from my buddy Connor Folk. He was one of the first to tweet it out that they had laid off all employees, kept maybe a very skeleton crew at their headquarters in Connecticut. And at this point, there is no plan for a 2021 season. So it seems at this point, barring something unforeseen, barring a miracle, or barring something that McMahon's just not telling everyone and he maybe has a plan, XFL 2.0 dead. Done again. And it's so sad because this league, I think, was doing stuff the right way. It was doing great things. I loved it because it was the most hands-on I've ever been able to be with a professional sports team, with the Wildcats here in Los Angeles. Being credentialed for practices, being on conference calls with the coaches, being at headquarters, having relationships with the communications people, having players on my show, this show, every single week, being credentialed for the games in the press box, going to the locker room, being on the field. What an experience that was. I loved my time with the league. It helped me build not only my reputation and credibility in hopefully doing this. Hopefully you that listen to this show enjoyed what I did, got something out of it. But it taught me so much about how to work within the league confines, within professional sports business. And obviously I'm going to bring that to what I do with the NFL and also college football. But it was nice to be really hands-on. Because, there's so many sports podcasts and websites and blogs out there. And a lot of them, there's a ton of phenomenal ones that do great work. A lot of ones don't even have access. I mean, there's bloggers that write about the Rams that live in New York, live elsewhere, and they do really good work. They put in the time. They maybe get players or something on via phone call. They watch a lot of film. They do good stuff. But there's something about being when you're hands-on and you can say, like, oh, yeah, I spoke to this guy at practice, or, yeah, I saw him in the locker room passing. It just adds something. So I was able to give me that, and hopefully I'll be able to have that again here soon with the NFL and college football. But the XFL, I thought, was just doing really good things. It's such a bummer that really, I mean, there could be stuff behind the scenes that we don't fully know now, and maybe there'll be a 30 for 30 in 10 years that unveils some stuff and stuff. Working correctly. There didn't seem to be an issue with actual didn't seem to be an issue. Excuse me. Sorry, I had a little glitch here on the recording side of it. So, it didn't seem to be an issue though with what they were actually doing, the product in the field, with building the brand, which I thought was getting, guys and girls that were doing stuff with social media. I mean, they did stuff that most leagues haven't done. They grew that brand, those accounts at crazy levels, crazy intervals, and it was just such a supportive group that supported the XFL. I think that's what made it so great. The product was getting better every week. That last game that I was at, the Wildcats and Tampa Bay Vipers, was an awesome game. Come from behind victory for the Wildcats. Josh Johnson slinging it all over the field. There was a lot of talent in this league. A lot of talent. And there's so many people that were kind of nose up, pointing fingers down, just because it's not the NFL. And it's not supposed to be the NFL. It's not going to be the NFL. It never was. When I talked to Oliver Luck, he said that specifically. We don't want to compete with the NFL. I love the NFL. I have tons of friends in the NFL. We want to complement the NFL. And that's what they were doing. And so it's just unfortunate that something not that they were doing wrong caused this league to fail. A freak pandemic from a guy that ate a bat overseas. And they happened to start a league right when that happened. Unfortunate. Very unfortunate. And there's still a sliver of me that thinks there's maybe a trick up his sleeve or something that could still bring this league back somehow, some way. Like maybe, obviously they're making zero money right now, but perhaps laid everyone off, hoping that when this ever does end, as many people that aren't hired by new places, they can bring back, and then they'll have to fill other positions with new people and kind of not start from scratch because they have built a brand, but they'll kind of have to retool a little bit. I don't know. But I think also McMahon knew that the league was going to lose money for a while, but he had the WWE making money. It was driving so much revenue, and now that's obviously taken a hit too because of this. So he doesn't have the same revenue stream coming in to supplement. So it's just, it was the perfect storm. And it just sucks. I hate seeing on Twitter today people comparing it to the AAF and what was going on with that, because it's two completely different reasons. One league went bankrupt, one had a worldwide pandemic happen right in the middle of your season. And every sports league shut down. Just this was a brand new startup that needed things to go their way a little bit in order to continue on. But the, TV ratings were good. Attendance was good, not great. Great in St. Louis, great in Seattle. Pretty dang good in DC and Tampa Bay. Not there yet in New York and LA. But you knew by year 2 or 3 those markets were going to grow. LA and New York are both markets that take time. They're not a flash-in-the-pan market. This is not saying anything bad about St. Louis or Seattle or anything like that, because those are great, great, great sports towns. And LA and New York are great sports towns. It's just different. You have to build. I feel like I've exhausted talking about that topic during the XFL season, talking about LA, how great of a sports town it is. You just have to earn the fans' trust. But I think by year 2 or 3, that would have happened. You would have seen, say, the Wildcats, whether they stayed at Dignity Health or moved to Bank of California, which I feel like there are still logistic issues there. But if they did, I think by 2 or 3 years, you'd see those stadiums 20,000, close to full. But anyway, here we are. So that's the big announcement there. Obviously a huge bummer. One good thing, Storm Norton, Pro Football Focus's #1 ranked tackle in the entire XFL, just signed a 2-year deal with the Los Angeles Chargers. So the Toledo product, play with the Wildcats. He's coming back to Cali to join the Chargers, adds depth to a position of need. I think it's a great for both parties. Obviously, love seeing Storm to get another shot. Hope I'm going to get him on the show. I know I was planning on having him on the show anyway during the season, and then when that ended, but now that he's sticking in LA football, so we'll hopefully get Storm on the show. But yeah, I think it's a great, great addition for the Chargers, who obviously, brought in Brian Balaga to cover the right side. And there's a lot of questions still at the left side. You have Trey Pipkins, they drafted in the 3rd round last year. This is obviously a pretty good tackle class, depending on how the Chargers decide to go in the first few rounds. And I'm not saying Storm Norton's going to come in and be a starter. He could be, though. Just recently played professional football. I know it wasn't the NFL level, but there's still talent in that league, and he was the #1 rated tackle. So here's a guy that could come in and potentially end up being the starter. It certainly changes draft scenarios. I think that's for sure. And we'll get to that once we get to the 3rd round mock. I'll talk more about that. But anyway, Storm Norton. Schefter was the one that announced a 2-year deal. So I don't have the numbers yet. I don't even know if those have been released. But it seems to be a 2-year deal with the Chargers, Storm Norton. So congrats, buddy. Glad to have you back in Los Angeles. So, all right. Well, there it is on the XFL, the LA Wildcats. Sad day. I remember when all the leagues were starting to shut down, the NBA, or were starting to postpone, and the XFL was like the last one to do it. They were trying to, really hold on because they would have been the only league going, and they would have just skyrocketed their numbers. And they made the final decision that they needed to, postpone, suspend at that time, and a few weeks later canceled the rest of the season. But I remember that first, when they finally announced they were suspended, I was deeply, crushed, really bummed, just because of the relationships I built with people around the league and other reporters covering the team, and it was just a really fun league. So I was super bummed by that. And today I had that feeling again, when it was like, okay, this might be the end. Might be done. Before it ever really got going. I think we were just on the surface of seeing what this league was really capable of. But I'm sure we'll see some of these rules adapted at some point. But anyway, we'll keep our eyes on it, see if there is an opportunity maybe where the league does come back. But at this point, it looks like a very, very low possibility of returning. So, on to some Rams news. It's been talked about for a long time. Brandon Cooks, whether he was going to be traded or retained. The free agency frenzy period came and went. He was not traded. The day passed where his roster bonus of $4 million became guaranteed. So then it was kind of like, all right, he's going to be on the Rams for the 2020 season, and then they have an out after this season. So then we'll see what goes on from there. But at that, kind of the talk on the street after that roster bonus became guaranteed was, okay, most likely he's here now to stay for at least this season. Hopefully he's healthy. Let's plan for him to be the guy that they brought him in to be. That deep threat, open things up for the offense. Obviously he missed a lot of time last year, and that's where we saw defenses really gang up on other receivers, gang up on the line of scrimmage because they didn't have that true deep threat guy. Well, thanks to Bill O'Brien, arguably the worst GM, not even arguably, the worst GM in the NFL. How is that guy a GM? He makes questionable coaching calls. You've seen him on Hard Knocks. He just seems like a guy that would be very hard to get along with. But now his GM moves, head scratchers. Head scratch. Makes no sense. Good for the Rams, though. Able to trade Brandon Cooks and a 2020, I believe it's a 2021 fourth-round pick for this year's second-round pick of the Texans. 57 overall. Just 5 picks after the Rams' current second-round picks. Now they have 2 twos. So the fact that the Houston Texans, and this is not to slight Brandon Cooks, but I don't think anyone would argue he's in the same class as DeAndre Hopkins. If you want to argue that, you're arguing at a wall, basically. There's no one in there arguing with you because you're out of your mind. Traded DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson and a second, I believe. And now they trade a second for Brandon Cooks. Very strange. Very strange. Good for the Rams. I mean, they've already kind of shown this season, or this offseason, that they're just going to eat money, and they're planning more for the future. I think, honestly, I'm always a glass half full guy. I don't know if you guys like that about me, listening to the show. I'm not doom and gloom. I'm always glass half full. Always trying to be optimistic. I don't think the Rams are going to be as bad as people are saying. They're not. I don't think right now they're a Super Bowl contender. We'll see if that can change for the draft. But I don't think they're a 3-13 team. Are they a playoff contender? They're in a tough division. You have the defending NFC champion Niners. Seahawks are just the Seahawks. I'm never going to count them out. I've done it a few times. As long as Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson are there, I'm not going to count them out. And the Cardinals are going to be improved. We saw it already last year. They were competitive. They're going to be improved. So it's a good division. But I don't think the Rams are a 3-13 team, 4-12 team. Could they be 8-8? Yeah. Could they go 7-9? Yeah. Would it shock me if they went 10-6? No. I think they're capable of that. The offensive line is going to improve. It's a young group. Let Aaron Kromer work with them. It's going to improve. Still don't think it's going to be great. You still need to get some draft acquisitions there. But it can improve. Goff will be better. Goff is a good quarterback. I want to have some people on here to debate. Goff is a good quarterback. He's not a top 5 elite quarterback. But he's not some bum. The kid can play. He's very accurate. Has great arm strength. He's good outside the pocket. Stat that still always kills me is the second most rollouts. Only behind Lamar Jackson in the NFL last year, Jared Goff. So he's great at throwing outside the pocket. Athletic. Mobile, but not a runner. He's more statue, but he's not a statue. The guy can move within the pocket. All right, you're not going to go ask him to run the option. You're not going to ask him to do RPOs. But he can move. He's not a stiff. He's not Joe Flacco back there. He can move around a little bit. But now this Brandon Cooks deal makes things interesting. Because, when he was on the roster, yeah, you'd probably add maybe a receiver late. But you're not going to use one of your early picks. Because, you're paying him a bunch of money. You obviously have Robert Woods, Mr. Consistent. Cooper Kupp, who's probably their star receiver, at least the fan favorite. Josh Reynolds is very serviceable. You have 2 good receiving tight ends in Higbee and Everett. So you're not going to use one of those 2 or 3s those 2 third-round picks or at the time, the 1 second-round pick, you're not going to use that on a receiver most likely. You want to address the secondary, the linebacker position for sure, whether it's inside or outside. You need edge rushers, or the offensive line. Now it opens things up to not necessarily target a receiver, but just let the board fall to you. If one of these top-tier receivers falls to you at 52, why not? And now you have 57 also. So it gives you a lot of wiggle room to say, cool, we can just take the best player available. Depending on, some would argue you don't want to take a safety there. Still wouldn't be a horrible idea with how many teams run nickel and dime so often nowadays. Base packages are used very rarely now. By rare, I mean like on first down. But you're running a lot of nickel and dime sets. So having multiple safeties, I know obviously you have your starters in John Johnson. You have the guys that you know are going to be your 2 moving forward. But it's not a bad thing having Taylor Rapp. Sorry, I randomly blacked out there on his name. So yeah, you have John Johnson, you have Taylor Rapp. You know those are going to be your starters moving forward. But that doesn't mean you can't add another safety. Again, I probably wouldn't with my first pick in the draft at 52 or 57, but this allows you to. By adding that second round pick, trading off Brandon Cooks, it just gives you options. Let the board fall to you. Don't panic draft. You never want to be panic drafting based on need. You always want to be drafting anyone that can help your football team. Best player, talent, work ethic, all goes into it. But you don't want to be based on need because it puts you really in a pinhole that you don't want to be in. So, anyway, Brandon Cooks, no longer a Ram, joins his, I believe, fourth team. Drafted by the Saints, then traded to the Patriots, then to the Rams. Now the Texans, I feel bad. I mean, he seems like a good guy. It's not like he's a bad player. It's kind of surprising that he gets moved so often. Obviously, last year he had his least productive year, about 500 yards of his career. He's had concussion history, which is always scary. You don't know when they're going to hang it up, when he should hang it up, or just how many games in general he's going to miss. But anyway, Brandon Cooks, thank you for your time in Los Angeles. Wish you nothing but the best in Houston. Tell you what, if I'm the Chargers, I'm getting on a phone call with Bill O'Brien. Get on a phone call tonight with Bill O'Brien. I'll get to that when we get to our Chargers portion. So let's stick with the Rams right now. All right, so now we're looking at the draft. The 3rd round. Things changed a little bit because adding that second pick, second rounder, it's kind of hard to say. Adding the 57th pick obviously is going to change what happens in the 3rd round. So how I want to do this and how I've been doing it the last few shows is I give some scenarios. So I don't want to just list 3 guys and say, okay, yeah, these are guys. You want to see who they take prior, because obviously that's going to affect who they take in the next round. So I have 3 different scenarios, and that gives kind of a breakdown per round. So I'm not going to dissect the second round because that's what I did last episode, but I'll at least say 3 different scenarios of who I took, and that'll lead to my 3rd round picks. So let's start with this first scenario. At 52, and I used both the Draft Network's Draft Simulator as well as Pro Football Networks. They have one as well. I don't know if you've heard of the website. It's a newer one, but they're doing good things. Tony Pauline actually has a podcast on the Believe Network, the Draft Analyst, so he's a really good connected guy. He does most of the analysis on the websites, but they have a mock draft simulator as well. So I use both just because, they sometimes if you use the same one over and over again, you get the same results. So I wanted to, play around with it, see some of the different rankings, how the sites rank. Obviously, I was doing it based on how I rank guys, but anyway. So full disclosure, I used 2 of them. So first scenario, 2nd round, and I believe this was with the Draft Network because they do their rankings different. Austin Jackson fell to the Rams at 52. The Pro Football Network's simulator almost every time has Jackson going in the first round. So obviously, a little different how they rank these guys. But anyway, Jackson fell to me in the second. I think that's a knockout home run. Wouldn't be forced to start right away, which is great because you have, obviously Andrew Whitworth coming back. You have Rob Havenstein, who is he even going to start? I think he's on the depth chart right now. Obviously, they just paid him. But Bobby Evans played pretty well last year at the end. So you add him to be able to learn, take his time, QB or not QB, but camp competition if you want. There you go. I like the pick with Austin Jackson. At 57, I went with another Trojan. Just keep the homegrown guys home. Michael Pittman Jr. Like I said, with trading Cooks out, it allows you to let the best player fall to you. Before, it would have been kind of silly to use a second-round pick for a receiver. Now you still have other positions of need. Those other positions of need haven't gone away. Inside linebacker, edge. You obviously took care of tackle right before that. But a guy like Michael Pittman is a home run pick. I've said it so many times, I'm not going to go into detail. I think he's going to be the most productive rookie receiver. I'm not taking him in mock drafts in the first round just because he's going to fall later, most likely, unless NFL teams are doing stuff way different than what these mock analysts are, which always is the case. But anyway, I love Michael Pittman Jr. He was sitting there at 57, wrapped him up, stay in LA. You won't be playing at the Coliseum unless with all this SoFi doesn't finish on time, but he'll be here right in LA. So that's a home run. So then we get to our third round, when we're really going to actually get into. And with pick 84 is where I addressed the edge position. Obviously, Leonard Floyd was added in free agency, who I like the signing, but he's not a guy that's going to get you double-digit sacks. He's not a productive sack artist. I think he can improve, and hopefully playing for a guy like Brandon Staley will help his pass rush moves. Hopefully he can bulk up a little bit more with all his time off. But he's a very versatile edge guy. You're really good in coverage, which I think in a Brandon Staley system is going to be necessary. But anyway, you want to add another rusher that hopefully gives you more actual rushing ability. And I think Darrell Taylor did a pretty good job at Tennessee. Last season, he finished with 10 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks. So not crazy, but good. 8.5 sacks. Obviously, you can improve, a lot to improve on. 46 tackles and 4 pass breakups. So, I liked that with the way the board was falling when I was doing these. A lot of scenarios, I would take a edge rusher in the second round, but I'll get to that. But this is the scenario I did. So Darrell Taylor, I think that'd be a solid pick in the third round. Had pretty good production, like I said. His physical traits are NFL worthy. Like, he's built ready right now for the NFL. Just body size, structure size. Let me get you his frame here. He's 6'4", 267, so great size. Great size for an outside edge guy. Probably looks just like Leonard Floyd. If they're side by side, probably look very similar. Slender, chiseled. So he's got the size down. He's a good tackler. He's got good burst. But his weaknesses are, his quickness off the ball. He's not one of those Von Miller types that's reading the snap count and getting off the ball like a lightning bolt. He's not that right now. Obviously, that can be taught a little bit. He needs more acceleration in his bull rush. So it's stuff that can be improved on. He has the body type, which you can't teach. It's just God-given. So he has that. So I like it at 84. Third round, it's not like you obviously need production out of your third-round guys. That's where, games are won in the mid-rounds. And I think he'd give that to you. So, Darrell Taylor with 84. Then we get to pick 104. And I'm going to go with Amik Robertson, cornerback out of Louisiana Tech. Not a guy as well known, but had great production at Louisiana Tech. 60 tackles, 8 for loss, and 5 interceptions last season. He's a smaller corner at 5'8", 187 pounds. Plays pretty big, though. He's covered big receivers his whole career. Doesn't shy away from them. Got great ball production. He has 14 career interceptions. I said 5 last year. 14 career. So obviously he gets his hands on the ball, hauls it down when needed. So he could be that good ball hawk that the Rams could use. Not necessarily pair with Jalen Ramsey. I don't think he'd be coming in to start, obviously. You have Troy Hill still, David Long Jr., who I know a lot of fans are hoping gets a lot more playing time this year, and certainly should. But he would add to that room and add a guy that had a lot of production in college, which sometimes that helped. Yes, he played at a smaller school, but production like that usually translates over to not necessarily similar. Not saying he's going to have 5 picks as a rookie, but he's been there, done that. So I like Amik Robinson with the 104th overall pick. So that was that scenario. Now let's go to our next scenario. So at this time, at 52, I went corner, who my old buddy, the coach, old co-host of the show, this is his, one of his fall in love guys, his Vontae Mack guys. Damon Arnett, cornerback out of Ohio State, the other guy on the other side of Jeffrey Okudah, who is the probably top 10 pick in this year's draft. But Damon Arnett's a great corner out of Ohio State that's going to give you a lot. So I went with him in the second round. Again, I'm not going to go into the second round guys too much. Then at 57, this is actually one of my favorite edge rushers, not named, not in the first round guys. The next tier guys. Julian Okwara, edge out of Notre Dame. Another guy that I'm big on. Again, all these second round picks, I have an article going up on LAFB Network where I break down the second round. I'm going to go round by round also. If you want to read about it, see a little video instead of just me talking about them. So I'll break more down into Okwara and guys like that, Arnett. So if you want to read up on that, that'll be up on LAFBnetwork.com probably tonight or tomorrow. So anyway, love Okwara out of Notre Dame. Okay, cool. So I've knocked off cornerback. I've knocked off edge. 2 big positions in need. So now we get to the third round. Let's let guys fall to us. Who do we go first? Brian Edwards, receiver out of South Carolina with pick 84. Good production last year, 71 receptions, 816 yards for 6 touchdowns. The one big red flag with him is he got injured last year, and then training for the combine, he broke his foot. So they just traded a guy in Brandon Cooks who has injury concerns, has concussion concerns. So it's not usually ideal to then bring in a receiver that's had some injury concerns, especially coming off a broken foot right now. But you can't deny what he did. That's South Carolina. He's got a good size, 6'3", 212, fast guy. I just think he would fit in very well with this receiving core. He's shifting, creating space. He's used at all 3 levels, so he has a good route tree. Quick hands, able to finish in a crowded area. So he's just a good, productive receiver who is lesser known because playing at South Carolina. But I think he could do good things. So, his route running needs to be improved, but he has a good route tree. Just needs to refine it. Unfortunately, nowadays, there's not a lot of great route running receivers. A lot of these receivers rely on speed and talent and size. When I played receiver, granted I'm 5'7", slow, white guy. So I had to be a phenomenal route runner if I was going to get any balls thrown my way. I wasn't getting separation with my speed. I wasn't getting separation with my size. I wasn't going to be a jump ball getter. So I had to be crisp, pure route running. Was I? I think it was pretty good, but I don't know if I was great. But nowadays, so many of these guys are so gifted with physical traits, with athletic traits, with speed, with size, that the route running kind of gets off. I watch a lot of film of receivers, and post routes are literally a 5-yard, and they just round it. 5-yard round. Like their slant is not even a slant. It's it looks like a fish hook the way they run it. It's frustrating. So, he needs to improve a little bit of that, but at least he has all the comment. He's not a 3-route receiver. But he can blow the top off if he needs to, so I think he would fit well in this receiving core of, Woods, Kupp, and Josh Reynolds, excuse me. So Brian Edwards, wide receiver, South Carolina, pick 84. So now at 104, this is a guy I absolutely love. I would love this pick. Absolutely love this pick. And maybe I'm higher on him than most. I watch a lot more Pac-12 football than probably a lot of people. Evan Weaver, linebacker out of Cal. Now, he is not your modern linebacker. He's not your 2020 linebacker. Freak athlete. He's not a, Isaiah Simmons. They can play 3 different positions, fast, versatile, 3 downs, stop the run, stop the pass. Like, he's not that. He's your old school, smash mouth, put his nose in the dirt, bring his lunch pill to work linebacker. Where you picture, Bertier from Remember the Titans. That's Evan Weaver. He's not athletically gifted. He's not a freak athlete. He's not that fast. He's got short arms. But I just love his tenacity. I love what he's one of those guys that you could bet against him 100 times and he's going to knock you on your ass and prove you wrong 100 times. This is the type of player he is. And that's the kind of player I'd want on my team. Get this stat. He led the country last year with 182 tackles. Let me say that again. He led the entire country last year with 182 tackles. 103 solo tackles. The second place finisher, 20 less solo tackles. 10 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles. So he's a tackling machine, character guy, great teammate, leader, plays with tenacity, plays with passion, just loves football, has a nose for the ball. Sometimes I look for guys like that, especially in the 4th round. This is not a top 10 pick where you're like, oh, well, you need someone that's going to, move to the next level with a crazy athletic ability. We're talking about the late 4th round. He's going to be a base guy. He's going to come out in dime packages, nickel patches. But on first down, in this 3-4 defense, he can play on the inside. I think Evan Weaver could start week 1. Be a guy that plays right away. Especially with the inside linebacking core the Rams have right now. So, I love Evan Weaver, especially in the 4th round. Troy Dye is another guy out of Oregon that falls a lot in this area. I think he's more athletically gifted, fits the build more of the current linebacker in today's NFL. Like Corey Littleton, fast guy, can cover the pass, edge to edge. He's not as refined. He needs more work, but his ceiling is probably higher. I love Evan Weaver. So, that's why I would go with him. 4th round, I think that's a slam dunk. Evan Weaver. Okay, so then my final scenario with the Rams. 52. In the 2nd round, I go edge in this one. Joshua Uche, edge out of Michigan. I know a lot of Rams fans want to see this guy in a Rams uniform. I think he's limited in his pass rushing moves, but he's also, didn't play a ton. I think he played, half his a year ago, and then last year was just like kind of full first full season playing at that position. So, he's a work in progress. He's a really gifted athlete, good size, very athletic. So I think he definitely has potential. He's limited. A lot of his just, relies on his athleticism and just speed. And at the NFL level, he's going to get tossed around, I think. But, he can definitely learn. So at 52, I went with him. And I know a lot of guys want to see that. 57, with Damon Arnett. I talked about him earlier. Great corner. I think he would be an awesome asset to this Rams DB room. Now, 84. I've talked a lot about taking running backs. And obviously, the Rams have sold their confidence on Darrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown. I think it's 100% they're going to add a running back in this draft just for depth. And I don't necessarily want to see them do that in the 3rd, which is right around where they took, I think Darrell Henderson was at 81 last year, I want to say. And this is at 84. But in this mock draft I did, the fact that this guy fell to me, which I don't think he will in the real draft. So this is more of a Hail Mary or wow, how did this happen kind of thing. And if he did, I think you have to snatch him up. Clyde Edwards-Helaire fell to 84. Again, I'm not usually taking a running back in the third round this year. I like Zach Moss potentially in the fourth round. A guy like Benjamin in like the fifth round. Those are two completely different type running backs, but I think they both would bring a good skill set. But if Edwards-Helaire is sitting there at 84, LSU running back, Mr. Production, won a national championship last year. Ball security, outstanding, does not fumble. Runs low to the ground, 36% of his carries went for first downs or touchdowns. He finished last year with 1,415 rushing yards for 16 touchdowns. He had a 6.6 yards per clip average, and he had 55 receptions for 453 yards, and he had 10 kick returns for a 21.4 yard average. If that guy falls 84, Edwards-Helaire and Darrell Henderson as your 1-2 punch. Now we're talking. Now that's a good running back room, and Malcolm Brown obviously. I like the differences they would both have in their skill set. So again, I don't really want to see them take a running back at 84, but if a guy like he falls there, you have to snatch that up. So, and then at 104, I went Evan Weaver again. He was there again. So you get your edge rusher in the second. You get your corner in the second. You get a running back, which they're going to take eventually. They're going to take a running back in this draft, or at least sign one in free agency afterwards. And then you get your inside linebacker. So your first 4 picks, your filling positions that you need. That still leaves receiver open later. Still leaves, obviously, the offensive line. They're going to add guys probably after that, which I'll get to next episode. But so, yeah, let me know which scenario, 1, 2, or 3 you like the best. If you're watching live right now, just comment. If you are listening to the podcast, hit me up on Twitter, Ryan Dyrud, LAFB. Instagram, Facebook, you can email me, podcast@lafbnetwork.com. So which scenario do you like best, Rams fans? Scenario 1, Austin Jackson, Michael Pittman Jr., Darrell Taylor, Amik Robertson. Option 2, Damon Arnett, Julian Okwara, Brian Edwards, Evan Weaver. Or scenario 3, Joshua Uche, Damon Arnett, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Evan Weaver. Hopefully you were taking notes. Anyway, so that is the mock third round for the Los Angeles Rams. Let me know what you think, like I said. Now let's get into the Chargers. Chargers fans, I know you've been patiently waiting. Looks like close to 45 minutes you've been patiently waiting, or maybe you just kind of skip ahead. I don't know. Hopefully everyone that listens to this show finds value in hearing a little bit about each team. I know if you're probably a diehard of each one, you probably don't like the other one, but at least it's not like we're talking Rams and Niners. At least they're different conferences. We're all Angelinos, right? We can get along. So let's get on to the Chargers again. Chargers actually have a first-round pick, so I'm going to have to go through each one just to kind of show how it sets up, and then we will go from there. But the Chargers will be a little quicker just because they have 1 first round, 1 second round, and 1 third round pick. The Rams had 2 seconds and 2 thirds. So first scenario for your Los Angeles Chargers at 6. Again, full disclosure, if you were skipping ahead, I use both the Draft Network's Draft Simulator and Pro Football Network's Draft Simulator, just so I got a little bit of variety, and then I kind of combined them both, blended them together to make them more realistic. A lot of research. So, first scenario, at 6, Justin Herbert. There's a big mix on this guy. I know some Chargers fans are okay with it. A lot are not at all. I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't love it. I feel like we've talked about it a lot. You probably have heard tons of quarterback talk, whether you're on Twitter, whether you're listening to Cowherd, whether you're listening to this show, other Chargers podcasts. It's all about the quarterback position. Is Tyrod Taylor the guy? Should they get Cam Newton? Is Jameis Winston an option? Yada, yada, yada. Who are they taking at 6? A lot of quarterback talk, so I don't need to get too much into it. Herbert, really, really high floor. I think he's going to be a good quarterback in this league. Is he going to be a superstar? A lot of people feel different about it. A lot of people think he doesn't quite have the football IQ or the awareness when the play breaks down, and a lot of people think that he was hindered by the system. It's a one-read system in Oregon. So if you're told, hey, this is your read, and if the read's not there, it looks like he struggles, but that wasn't what they practiced. It's a one-read system. Get the ball out quick. So maybe with proper coaching or something, but he obviously has the physical tools, has tremendous arm strength. He can move. He's mobile. He's a great leader, great kid. I know I've seen comps to like Paxton Lynch. You're just looking at size then. You're just looking at size. Maybe some of the arm qualities, accuracy things are similar, Justin Herbert and Paxton Lynch, but the football IQ and the actual just leadership qualities are 180 difference, which is what you really want. Paxton Lynch could have been a good NFL quarterback if he put in the damn work. Again, maybe not a superstar, but he could have been an NFL quarterback. He just didn't put in the work, didn't learn the playbook. Justin Herbert, I don't think, is going to have that problem. So anyway, Herbert at 6, 37. And again, this might change a little bit now with the signing of Storm Norton, adding to that tackle room. Two of these scenarios I did before that news broke, but I wanted to keep it just because I think they could still do it. Storm Norton is coming in on good faith and, what he was able to do in the XFL, but we'll see how that pans out. I think it's a great move. I think he's going to be phenomenal. But I had them go Ezra Cleveland, offensive tackle to Boise. I know a lot of Charger fans are high on him. I think he would be a very nice addition as well at 37. I mean, you can't, in today's day and age, you can't have too many tackles. And obviously, it would basically be between Cleveland, Pipkins, and Storm Norton for that left tackle position. Your right side's solid. So you still got to find that starter for the future in the left side. And that wouldn't be the worst thing ever, having 3 very capable tackles. Especially with all the injuries the Chargers seem to always have every year. You want to have more at your disposal. And you never know if one of those guys you slide inside. I know that's the other question mark is left guard. With Forrest Lamp and Dan Feeney and their injury history, you can always slide one of those guys inside as well. A lot of college tackles end up playing guard at the pro level. So that's an option. So I like Ezra Cleveland in the second. And then so my third pick, and it's so funny covering both these teams, the Rams and Chargers, because for the last year and a half now, a lot of their needs in free agency and the draft have really lined up. So I don't want to seem like I'm lazy analyst, just piggybacking off the other, but a lot of the needs seem to line up. So the Chargers, you wouldn't say they need a cornerback in the secondary. Casey Hayward. Still have Derwin James, who's going to be a rover, probably play a lot in dime, can play safety if needed, can play in the slot, but Chris Harris Jr. comes over. He's going to be your primary slot guy. Mike Davis is like the one weak link. I mentioned Derwin James, obviously, superstar. Capable. Mike Davis is capable, but he's your weak link. So if you can, obviously you want to add a corner anyway for depth, but if you can add a potential day one starter or an upgrade, why wouldn't you do that? Especially in the third round. So in this scenario, I had Damon Arnett fall to the Chargers at 71. I don't personally think he's going to last that long. I think he's going to go in the second. I think he's a second-round guy, perhaps even a very end of the third. But when I saw him sitting there at 71, that's a home run. Home run if Arnett falls to 71. So I already analyzed him a lot. If you were listening previously, if you skipped past all the Rams portion, he's just a good player that would give you good production. Obviously he started on the other side of Okuda, so he just played very well in college. Good guy, good tackler. So that'd be a slam dunk at 71. Again, I don't think he falls that far, but if he does, great. Okay, so scenario number 2. And I'm seeing a lot more in these mocks. Tua fall to the Chargers at 6, which I think would be everyone's dream scenario. Whether the Dolphins take Herbert at 5, I've seen them go tackle at 5, taking either Wirfs or Becton. Whatever it is. But I've started to see a lot more, and again, these are mock draft simulators. This is not real life. But I've started seeing it a lot more. So in this scenario, Tua fell at 6. Great. Quarterback of the future. Doesn't have to start right away. He just released his virtual Pro Day video today. Looked great. Obviously, it's an edited Pro Day highlight video, but looked good. Hip looked good from what you could tell. Obviously, no one questions his arm and stuff like that, his ability. Great. Falls to 6. 37, again, like I mentioned, could change the scenario now with Storm Norton, joining the team. But Austin Jackson was sitting there at 37, which, again, I've seen him go a lot earlier. But in this case, he was there at 37. Like Austin Jackson, I talked about him a lot with the Rams, but, great tackle for USC. Still has some work needs to do. Me and Dan Wade talked about him more last week on last episodes. Dan Wade of the Locked On Chargers podcast also contributes here at LAFB Network, but he kind of broke down Austin Jackson, but he has that in his 2-round mock scenario on LAFB Network. So go there if you want to get a little more analysis on that, but I liked him at second. And at 71, go receiver. Obviously, you have Keenan Allen, superstar. You have Mike Davis. We're still waiting for that true superstar break. He had that 10-touchdown season 2 years ago. This year kind of took a step back a little bit, but obviously we saw some good games out of him. We just want to see the consistency out of him. But yeah, you need a third guy, which they just don't have right now. So Brian Edwards, wide receiver out of South Carolina, talked about him again. Big guy. Biggest question mark is the injury. The foot injury, broken foot right before the combine. So if he comes back healthy, though, he would just add a lot of talent, good size, decent route running that needs to be refined a little bit, but he could learn from Keenan Allen, who's one of the better ones in the game. So I like that pick at 71. So the final scenario, and this is an interesting one, and we'll see what you guys think. So at the top, beginning of the draft, a lot of weird stuff happened. It was one of those simulations where most of them are pretty, with a change of 1 or 2 players, are pretty consistent. Joe Burrow 1. Simmons goes like 4 to the Giants, yada, yada, yada. Okudah usually goes to the Lions. Well, in this one, there was a lot of differences. Okudah was sitting there at 6. Isaiah was already gone. Tua was gone, so I don't think I'm skipping on those guys. So I was like, okay, maybe I do a tackle. Wirfs was there. Beckham was there. But with adding Storm Norton, with the potential of a tackle later, I was like, Okudah, the best corner that you have, Casey Hayward, Jeffrey Okudah, Chris Harris Jr., Desmond King, Nasir Adderley, and Derwin James. You kidding me? Who's throwing on you? Who's throwing on you? That secondary would be unreal. And you have your pass rush already. You add a late-round linebacker to add some depth there, but Drew Tranquill's coming back. Obviously, Denzel Perryman is not there. That's great. If you can get Okudah, I think. It's an interesting scenario because I don't think it's one that's likely. And there's other guys that I like, but if the other guys are gone, it's not a bad one. And if you can just add to that room, that I think is a tremendous get. So yeah, it was surprising to me that that's how it went down, but yeah, so be a good defense. Obviously, I think I was stumbling over my words. We had Denzel Perryman and Drew Tranquill there in the middle, and then that secondary is whew. And then obviously you have your elite edge rushers and Joey Bosa. And, so good stuff there. So Okudah at 6, and we go to the second round at 37, and we're going to add a receiver this time. So I added a receiver last scenario in the third round. I'm going to do it in the second round this time with Jalen Reagor at a TCU. Me and, again, Dan talked about it last week. Our second round mock, so I won't get too into it, but a good player, great speed. Biggest question mark is his hands, just his consistency with catching the ball, which obviously is important at receiver, but if he can improve on that, it's a very good get in the second round. So then we get to the third round. And this is, if he falls to 71, which you may have to trade up a little bit. I did one scenario where I actually traded back into the last pick of the second round at 64, and I took him there. I had this scenario where he fell to 71, 7 picks later. Jalen Hurts, quarterback, Oklahoma. This is a fascinating one. So they obviously haven't taken a quarterback yet, going to Okudah and Reagor. So this would basically mean you're going to roll with Tyrod Taylor and groom Jalen Hurts, who's done nothing but win in college. Obviously, did good things at Alabama, was eventually replaced by Tua, but then absolutely killed it last year at Oklahoma. Killed last year. Let's see his stats here for you. 3,851 passing yards for 32 touchdowns with 8 picks. Almost 1,300 rushing yards with 20 rushing touchdowns, so 52 total touchdowns. He also caught 2 passes for a receiving touchdown, so 53 total touchdowns. So great stats. I'm not comparing him at all to Kyler Murray. I think Kyler Murray is an unbelievable athlete. Has a crazy arm strength for his size, his elusiveness. There's different style quarterbacks. But Murray's Heisman winning season the year prior, he finished with 4,300 yards. It's about 600 yards more. 42 touchdowns, so 10 touchdowns more. 7 picks, 1 less pick. He had 1,001 rushing yards, so about 300 less. 12 touchdowns, 8 less rushing touchdowns. So statistically speaking, Jalen Hurts is not that far behind Kyler Murray. Now, the quarterback position is not all about stats. It's about what translates over. Jalen Hurts doesn't quite have the arm talent, has some other knocks on him a little bit. I'm not completely sold on him either. I've seen some comps to Tim Tebow. I don't think that. I think he has a better arm than Tebow had. But, his leadership's great. Finished with a 38-4 record as a starter. He's tough, durable. He's a capable rollout passer, which I think, obviously, they want to do in their system. Anthony Lynn and Shane Steichen. So, system-wise, I think he'd be a great fit. The real question is he a guy that's going to be your future quarterback? Does he have the talent to be that guy? I don't think anyone thought Dak Prescott was going to be that when they took him in the 4th round. I don't think anyone thought when the Cowboys drafted Dak, he was going to be the face of their franchise. He was a security blanket. They still had Tony Romo. He was a backup. Maybe if he groomed really well, he could maybe want to be a starter. But he wasn't drafted as the face of the franchise. And as a rookie, he took the league by storm. Obviously, he had a great offensive line. Zeke was there, had great weapons. I wouldn't, in my opinion, we won't go down this rabbit hole, but I don't think he's an elite quarterback. But he's done good things. I think Jalen Hurts could be capable of that. He's won everywhere he's gone in college. He's a very athletic guy, would fit the system great. He'd be a good fan experience for a team looking to still kind of find their identity here in Los Angeles. So he would sell seats, sell tickets. And in the 3rd round, if he falls you at 71, it's not like you're taking a quarterback 6, and if he flops, you're screwed. It's a 3rd round pick. Obviously, you want every pick to pan out, but it's not going to make you look like a failed experiment if your 3rd round pick doesn't end up being star quarterback. Russell Wilson was a 3rd round pick. John Snyder looks like a genius for that. Genius for that, even though he just signed Matt Flynn that same year to a big, huge contract after 1 good game. Takes Russell in the 3rd as a safety blanket and ends up making his franchise one of the best teams in the NFL since he's been there. 5, 6, 7 years. So anyway, Jalen Hurts, I think, would be a fun, interesting pick. Will he pan out? I don't know, but a room of Easton Stick, Jalen Hurts, and Tyrod Taylor, it's a pretty physically gifted room, very athletic quarterback room, and they all have very similar skill sets. Like I don't think the Chargers are going to be drafting a Jake Fromm or Jacob Eason because they would just be an outlier. They would be what Phillip Rivers was last year, obviously not to Phillip Rivers' capabilities, but that quarterback room, you want to have some continuity across with what all the quarterbacks can do, because if one guy goes down, you won't have to change the system completely. Well, now Lynn and Steichen can really implement what they want with Tyler Taylor. They've said that. They want a mobile guy that can roll out, that can do a lot of things outside the pocket. Easton Stick can do that. I know maybe he's not the guy of the future, but he can do that in a backup role. Jalen Hurts can do that. I like it. Could be good. Let me know what you think. Hit me up on Twitter. If you're watching right now, hit me up. If you're not, if you're listening on this podcast, Ryan Dyrud, LAFB is the Twitter handle. Let me know what you think. So scenario 1, Justin Herbert at 6, Ezra Cleveland at 37, and Damon Arnett at 71. Scenario 2, Tua at 6, Austin Jackson at 37, Brian Edwards at 71. And scenario 3, Jeffrey Okuda at 6, Jalen Reagor at 37, and Jalen Hurts at 71. Let me know what you think. Ryan Dyrud, LAFB. That's the show for today. That's the first Friday edition of the Believe in LA Football podcast. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. Stay safe out there, as always. Enjoy this time with people you live with in home. Stay home. Tomorrow, again, jump on with me. Let's watch some football. 10 a.m., Chargers kickoff. Week 15 from 2018, Chargers at Chiefs. 1:05 p.m., we'll do our Rams kickoff. It's going to be the NFC Championship game from the 2018 season. So hopefully we will chat tomorrow. Thank you for tuning in live if you're live. Thanks for downloading the show if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. Make sure to subscribe and enjoy your weekend. Hopefully see you guys all tomorrow for our live remote viewing party. Have a great night, guys. Thank you.